Farmer Sharp here with Mr. Northwest Cheese, Martin Gott, who's the proud winner of a Farmer Sharp knife sharpening class. We ran this this internet competition on our blog to find someone that could actually judge my little in-joke of a mutton topside, which I know most people would actually look at and think, it's a topside. Anyone in the industry, as Martin did, and he emailed me and said, it's a beef topside. And I emailed back and said, no, it isn't.
I couldn't just judge the size of it.
Yeah,
there was nothing there to tell me how big it was, so it looked like a beef.
What I should have done was pick a little knife, put it by the top side, so that it looked really big. Well, then he guessed a venison topside, which was quite interesting because, it's just quite interesting that.
Wasn't far off the mark. A fit deer. Could have been a big fit red deer. No.
Well, not with the colour tones. And then he rightly judged it to be a mutton topside. So as our competition winner, I said that even though he's in the food industry, and I found it quite a good in-joke that I would come and teach someone who should know how to sharpen knives, And Martin graciously has let us out unbelievably in the sunshine in the yard of Cartmel cheese shop. So how do you keep your knives sharp, Martin? What do you use as a...
At the moment we actually keep the knives blunt, because when we're sampling cheese we don't like sharp knives, but since we've started selling hams and charcuterie and salami and that kind of thing, we now need sharp knives. So you are here to show us how to sharpen the knives, keep them sharp. Right,
so really the options would be a machine, a nice expensive whetstone, or a nice inexpensive oil stone like this.
We like the sound of the last one.
Yeah, well that's economic viability for you. This was bought off good old eBay for the princely sum of £8.
Somewhere near our budget.
Yeah. In here we have something to emulate light machine oil, which is washing up liquid and water so that it doesn't contaminate your food surfaces. So the key with sharpening is just a bit of patience, a couple of strokes, have a look, have a feel, because it's maths with a bit of art. The maths is the degree at which you sharpen. It's easy to say you would sharpen at a particular angle, but we're not accurate machines ourselves. So a bit of grind, couple of strokes, have a look, couple more strokes, have a look. It's essential that you don't create an over sharpen, because it'll just fall over like that. The ribbon of steel is very flexible and very vulnerable to coming off or to being damaged if it's too fine. So it's a fine line between being sharpened and over sharpened. So you've got to get it right to the point it's sharp and stop. Putting it in a machine and doing one stroke, have a look, rather than doing three, thinking it needed three last time. Do one, have a look, do one, have a look, and if it needs a third one, fine, but don't do zip, 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 because you'll end up thinking that's blunter than when I started. It was all right when I started and now it's terrible, and that happens a lot when you're learning to sharpen a knife. So the idea of this oil stone is, we would assume that this is your sharpening tool, but as you well know, it's a steel just for honing your knife, for getting the edge back to where it should be. Yeah. So I know you know this, but the principles of what we're trying to do is to make a point. Yeah, at a specific angle that'll sustain and not be too vulnerable, but also not too thick, so that it doesn't feel sharp. Yeah. So it's the angle is not really relevant. The angle that you should sharpen the knife at should be consistent. That's what's relevant. So if you were picking that angle, it would be really, really strong, but it wouldn't be very sharp. If you had the knife flat on there, it would be very sharp, but very vulnerable to just a knock on a bit of wood like that. So the idea is that we use this water to put on there as lubricant. And you've got to keep looking at it and wiping it to see where the edge is and see where you've ground. And what you can actually see is we've started, if you look at that, right on the edge, there's a little lip. Get hold of the knife and have a look. And what we're trying to do is make that absolutely flat so the light just shines off it like a mirror. Alright. The difficulty with a prosciutto knife like this is this flexibility. So you've got to combat that by not pushing too hard and just basically riding the knife over the stone nice and gently and as flat as possible. So you keep wiping it off and having a look to see what you've done. If you just compare them two edges, it's simple, it's very easy. Sharpening a knife is really easy, but you'll be amazed how many people are really rubbish at it. And you should if you're going to over sharpen, you should over sharpen the same way so you know where to steel the most. I always ever so slightly over sharpen it that way so you know the edge is going to be there. So when you come to steel the knife, you do, because your arm can do that, but there, that's as far as the mechanics can go, you tend to steel in an uneven manner. Everyone looking at steeling thinks that's not really smart. He doesn't cut his hand. I haven't yet. I've had 35 or more years of practice at it. So, but realistically, digging it in your board, obviously not your lovely worktop, and steeling at the angle at which the knife has been ground, but the actual pressure, if you hold your hand out, is that much. It's just like resting the steel on your hand. You rest the knife on the steel and gently stroke it. I think this would probably cost you about 40 quid, but unless you damaged it in some way, that will last for the next couple of generations. Your little lad could have that and still be as useful.
And how often should you sharpen the knives?
Steeling is about how much you use it, but grinding it is also about how much you use it. It's relative to looking at the knife, understanding where the edge is and whether you've induced those shoulders. And as soon as the steel ceases to work, you can't find the edge, it's not folded over either way, then you need to grind. And at that point, you'll go from having a really blunt knife that you've got used to having a really sharp knife. So that's the point you need to be careful, because most people cut themselves with really blunt knives if you're pulling on it, but really sharp knives because you're still pulling on it and don't realise that if you say boning something out or slicing something, when you're used to really hacking away and you get a sharp knife and you go. A real key skill for that though is remembering, and that's the sharp side, after you've sharpened it, it will be, and that's the blunt side, and keep your hand away from that sharp side as much as you can, or keep it protected behind the if you're carving ham in your deli there, particularly keeping it so the knife will go away from you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I've learned an awful lot today, thank you.
Right, well I hope so. You probably needed it. Well, no, you probably didn't need it, but it's nice to have either the knowledge you know reinforced or just polished a little bit.
I've learned a lot, thank you.
All right, great. Thanks Martin for having us in this wonderful environment. Fantastic.